Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Awards live stream. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia. With me, Pat Fitzmaurice, Andrew Erickson, Derek Brown, and all-pro cast here. That's right, to help look back at the year that was 2024 and maybe talk about what might be ahead in 2025. We're going to hand out the hardware right here on the program today. The guys have some awards to give out, and you're not going to want to miss part two of this show today. Some special fun and games that I have lined up, and the guys have no idea what's in store for them. And that, my friends, is the best. Pat Fitzmaurice, Andrew Erickson, Derek Brown. It's nice to see all of us together. We don't get to do this very often. It feels very Brady Bunch in here. Hopefully, one of you will clean up after yourselves at some point, because I don't want to live in a house with so many of you. But it's going to be a good time here today, again, going through some of the best and worst of 2024 fantasy football. If you've got some comments you want to make, go ahead and drop them in the chat. And of course, super chats are available too. If you want to drop them in, we can take them later in the show if we have time. But before we get to all that business, another piece of business that I want to talk about here, which is join us on the Betting Pros on 4:15. That's right, 4:15 this coming Saturday at 4:15. Bogman, myself are going to be live in-game live betting for the wild card. So Houston Texans, Chargers. We're going to be hanging out, giving you our best bets, walking you through some stuff, seeing how these two teams flush themselves out. And heck, it might be more entertaining to listen to us than the game. So make it your second screen experience. Again, it's me, it's Scott Bogman, and it's you. 4:15, 1:11. That's right. This Saturday afternoon, we're going to be kicking things off. We're going to go right through about till halftime, and then you can watch the rest of the game and hopefully make a crap ton of money. But the wild card begins over at Betting Pros. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications. All right, gentlemen, let's begin the process of the hardware. The Golden Globes were this weekend. They pale in comparison to what we're going to do today, and I see most of you dressed up just for the occasion. So let's start with, of course, our breakout stars of 2024. Deebo, why don't you kick us off here? Who do you think was the true breakout of this season?
Well, we all know the name I'm going to here, baby. It's Jayden Daniels. I mean, we talked about him all draft season. the QB4 in fantasy points per game, people, weeks 1 through 17. And when it mattered most to help you bring home said hardware, that man in week 16 and 17 averaged 34.6 fantasy points per game. All of his QB1 rates, his top 6 rates, all tied Josh Allen, except you didn't have to pay the price in ADP. That's my guy.
Not bad. Yeah. Number 5 overall on fantasy points per game for quarterbacks, 21.5 on FantasyPros. Looking at it now, is a pretty good year for Jayden Daniels, our consensus number 1 quarterback in the draft. That's right. Why the Bears don't hire us for GM, I don't know, but maybe there'll be an opening soon. Could be. We'll see. Pat Fitzmaurice, let's talk about breakouts of 2024. Maybe it's a rookie, maybe it's not for you. Who did you award this big piece of hardware to?
Oh, it's another rookie. It's Brock Bowers. And every year, Joe, fantasy managers go into draft season thinking about how they're going to solve the tight end problem. And make no mistake, like, this position has been a problem. The only reliable solution in recent years has been to draft Travis Kelce. But my friends, that train has reached the end of the line. Last stop, the Kelce Express 2024. But just as Kelce ran out of steam, along came a new hero at tight end. It was Brock Bowers, 112 catches, 1,194 yards, 5 touchdowns. Bowers finished 3rd among all players in receptions, tight ends and wide receivers. Only Ja'Marr Chase and Amon-Ra St. Brown had more catches. Bowers tied for 8th among all pass catchers in receiving yardage, tied with CeeDee Lamb. And here's the exciting thing, Joe. Bowers did all this with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell as his quarterbacks. Like, I don't know if the quarterback situation gets better for the Raiders in 2025, but it's probably not going to be any worse. And look, Trey McBride, excellent young tight end also, but we got the Trey McBride breakout last year. So Brock Bowers, the new Travis Kelce, and I kind of think he should be a first-round pick in 2025 drafts, even in leagues that are not tight end premium.
I agree with you. I think he is going to be around the 10, 11, 12 in that turn conversation. I see people talk about it already, and some people don't like it. I like it, and Fitz likes it, so it must be right. Andrew Erickson, I have a sneaking suspicion who your breakout star of 2024 is, but let's make it official here on the program.
BTJ, wide receiver 1 season. Brian Thomas Jr., rookie wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Finished as the wide receiver 4 overall in half PPR, wide receiver 9 in points per game. It was the perfect storm. I bet on it, that he would lead all rookie receivers in receiving yards this year, and he did. He beat everybody. He beat Marvin Harrison. He beat Malik Neighbors, his teammate at LSU. It didn't matter. So, yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., I think that he's going to be in the discussion in the first round of 2025 fantasy football drafts with his old teammate Malik Neighbors. So, yeah, Brian Thomas Jr. And to give credit where Brock Bowers was doing with Aiden O'Connell and Desmond Ridder and Gardner Minshew, well, Brian Thomas Jr. was finishing the season strong with Mac Jones. So getting Trevor Lawrence, potentially maybe Ben Johnson coming in to be the offensive play caller for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very excited about Brian Thomas Jr. after his rookie year and to see what he can do in year 2.
All right. Oh, did you get a little worried when Mac Jones took over a quarterback? Be honest.
100%.
Okay.
No, I was already queuing up before Mac Jones entered in as quarterback. Brian Thomas Jr. was X.
He had that right there. You have to scrap that.
Erickson was trying to cash out that bet that he made. He was like, okay, what's the cash out? Is it a little profit? Can I get it?
Come on, maybe? You can't hold me to the prediction because, Trevor Lawrence got hurt, guys. All right, let's go to the flip side. Mine, by the way, was the second year guy, Jackson Smith-Njigba. That was my breakout from this year. Sometimes it's easy with the rookies to be breakouts, but JSN, breakout year for him. I'm looking for big things out of him next year too. All right, let's go to the biggest busts of 2024. Erickson, we'll start with you this time. Who was the biggest disappointment when the dust settled on the 2024 fantasy season for you?
Yeah, so maybe he's not everyone's biggest bust, but for me personally, it was Breece Hall, because that's the guy that I definitely drafted the most of when it comes to like the first round picks and specifically at the running back position. So look, RB18 overall, RB18 in points per game. Far from what I expected of putting him as my RB1. So again, I felt so smart fading Christian McCaffrey. What I get, Breece Hall instead. It's like, oh, great. Like, it doesn't feel like a win because I still didn't draft a good running back in the first round. So I'm trying to look back and see, where did I go wrong with Breece Hall? And it comes back to simple analysis where people were saying 2 Jets going in round 1. What could go wrong? well, everything could go wrong is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So I underrated Braylon Allen, and he was better than I expected. Again, I liked him as a prospect, but didn't expect him to necessarily hit the ground running as he did and kind of eat into Breece Hall, especially during the beginning of the season. Obviously, you have the coach firings, the Jets just being an absolute disaster. Hall scored fewer touchdowns than the year before, which I could not believe. I still didn't believe it to when I'm reading off the stats that this offense was somehow worse with Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson, just from a touchdown equity perspective. I pointed out last year where Breece Hall basically never got any goal line carries. He had the same amount of carries inside the 10-yard line in 2023 that he did in 2024. So again, still not seeing that touchdown equity, and the receiving and rushing overall was just a little bit worse than last year, and that just hurt his bottom line. So disappointed in Breece Hall. I still think he's a really talented player. Interested to see where the ADP market shakes out on him, because I don't want to give up on him. Yeah, Breece Hall for 2024 is a season I would like to forget.
All right. The Jets, for the record, also lost more games this year, too. Just want to throw that in there. By two. It was real close, too. 7-5. All right, Fitzy, back to you here. Let's go back around the round table here. Let's talk about the biggest bust of 2024 on your paper.
I'm going to say it's Travis Etienne. And Travis Etienne started off with a bang in 2023 and then kind of slowed down around the midpoint of the regular season. And maybe that was a prelude to what we were going to see in 2024. Etienne came into this season with an ADP of RB7, 16th overall. He finished RB 36 in a half-point PPR scoring, RB 43 in fantasy points per game with an average of 7.4 points per game. He hit double-digit fantasy points in each of his first 3 games, though just barely, and then had only one more double-digit point total all season. There were only 4 games in which Etienne had 50 or more rushing yards, and only one of those games came after week 4. So he hit a career-low 254 receiving yards. He only scored 2 touchdowns. It was a bad year for Travis Etienne.
All right. Do you think Travis Etienne is with the Jaguars next season, Pat?
Man, I don't know anyone who's going to give him the bag after this year. So maybe they re-sign him cheaply.
Maybe.
It's like,
is he a free agent? I thought he was still under contract.
Well, we have to check on that to be sure. But one thing is for sure, Trent Baalke certainly is not going anywhere. He's always going to be around.
How long are Travis Etienne's arms?
I don't know. Let's get a measurement on the arms. That will be the deciding factor in the contract negotiations. All right, let's go to Deebo for his biggest bust, and there were a lot of them too. Now, sometimes I don't like when busts are defined by necessarily injuries, because that's not really fair, right? We picked 2 guys here: Breece Hall, Travis Etienne. They were on the field for the bulk of the season. Deebo, who's the guy for you that was on the field for a bulk of the season and just did not live up to the ADP or the hype?
Well, the man that apparently wants out of South Beach, Tyreek Hill. And this all falls at the feet of Tyreek Hill. Like, we can talk about the quarterback play and Tua, but Tyreek Hill was honestly terrible for most of the season. I mean, we're talking about you had to spend a top 3 to top 5 pick to get him in almost every draft. The wide receiver 29 people in fantasy points per game. He was a wide receiver 1 in only 19% of his games. And just for comparison, Alec Pierce had a higher wide receiver 1 rate than Tyreek Hill. Juwan Jennings had a higher wide receiver 1 rate on a weekly basis than Tyreek Hill. And so did Adam Thielen. And this is not just, the quarterback stuff, because Tyreek Hill was outside the top 25 wide receivers this season in separation score and route win rate. So we're honestly just seeing the precipice, the tip of the iceberg of a player that, look, eventually Father Time comes calling for us all, and it came calling for Tyreek Hill. So terrible season, and I don't see a bounce back in 2025 either.
Great job by our producers, Michael Calley and Seth Dywald here. Etienne is a team option for 2025 because he was the first round pick, and also the arm length. We do have the numbers. It's 30 1/8. So I'm not sure.
What is that percentile, Joe? The number means nothing to me.
Not high enough for Baalke. I can tell you that.
I know they're longer than my arms. That's what I know. Certainly.
Well, yeah, but that's not saying much.
All right. Last year on the waiver wire, it was bountiful, and I mean extremely bountiful, especially from one team. You had Puka Nacua, who ended up as a wide receiver 1, and Kyron Williams, who ended up as an RB1, both pushing for the very top of their own position too. Unbelievable last year off the waiver wire. This year, it wasn't quite as exciting on the waiver wire. In fact, all 3 of you lunatics actually picked the same guy. So we're just going to rename this the Bucky Irving Award for 2024. It's the new award here for the waiver wire pickup of the year. And Deebo, why was Bucky Irving that guy for you? And is it something we can bet on in 2025 reoccurring?
We absolutely can bet on it. I mean, considering what he showed, this is Kyren Williams 2.0, people. He crushed. He was left out there on waiver wires. And I mean, he makes it for me because who was the guy that not only sustained the value and was a difference maker if you picked him up for the entirety of the season, helped you brought home championships weeks 6 through 18, man. RB10 in fantasy points per game with Rachaad White still playing a prominent role for all of that. So I'm a Bucky investor. I think he's going to sniff the first round in a lot of drafts in 2025, and I'm here for it, man.
Fitzy, you are big into the college world, big into the dynasty world. Did you see this Bucky Irving season coming at all for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2024?
Nope, I did not, Joe. And the reason Deebo made that comparison to Kyren Williams is because, like Kyren Williams, Bucky Irving was kind of an undersized running back who ran kind of a sluggish 40 time at the combine. So the combination of lack of size and lack of speed turned a lot of people off. But man, like everything else about Bucky's game is so good. His vision, the way he strings moves together. I mean, he's just an ankle breaker. He catches passes. Like his game is so advanced. And man, he was a fun watch this year. Like one of the funnest running backs to watch in the league.
It's so funny to think, okay, he's not as fast as the other guys. He's not as big as the other guys, but he's more productive than most of them. That's something that maybe we should learn when we watch the combine this year too. Maybe don't go too gaga over some of the things. Go back and look at the tape. Look at what the guy does in games. That'll give you that option. Andrew Erickson, Bucky Irving. I don't know if you had any shares of him. I did not. I had all the Rachaad White shares, so my process was good. I just didn't have enough of the right guy. Rachaad White was okay, but it was really Bucky Irving was the guy you wanted in this backfield last season.
Yeah, Bucky Irving was a guy we talked a lot about, not on the waiver wire show, or we did, but on the trade show. Welsh and I talked about Bucky Irving because every time we looked up, we're like, this Buccaneers schedule to end the season is salivating. Like Panthers, Saints, all these terrible teams. And guys, the NFC South still has the Panthers, still has the Falcons, still has the Saints, all terrible teams that Bucky Irving will play next year for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So again, don't want to be too aggressive potentially looking at defensive matchups, but the reason that Bucky was a guy that, he won leagues and it was predictable. So you were able to acquire him in trades, even if you had to spend a little bit more because Rachaad White was still lingering around. The fact that he was able to do it with White still being part of the offense. But we've seen over the last couple of weeks, he's out-touched him by an absurd number. It's very clear where this Buccaneers backfield is going. Now, the only caveat I would say is Liam Cohen loves Bucky Irving. Like he was a big part of going back to my draft notes. Liam Cohen played a part in the Buccaneers drafting Bucky Irving. He actually even drafted Bucky Irving over his guy at Kentucky, Ray Davis, which was really eye-opening to me at the time. And I wish I had weighed that more heavily. So we'll see. I know Cohen is getting head coaching interviews. We'll see if he ends up leaving Tampa Bay. But if he stays, man, it's even just more confidence to take more shots on Bucky Irving, who I agree with Deebo and Fitz where, yeah, it's Kyren Williams 2.0. It definitely wasn't high on Kyren in year 2 compared to year 1. I won't make that mistake again with Bucky.
I think that's
talked about this.
That's a good point, right? Because I think last year too, we were all going, wow, that was a great year for Kyren, but can we believe in it? And I don't think any of us, I think we were a little gun shy on Kyren and ended up having a really good season too. Go ahead, D.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this on the show, and shout out to Erickson on previous years. The point that I think people need to take away from the Bucky Irving conversation, tackle breaking metrics in college translate to the freaking NFL. And I'm going to give Erickson a lot of flowers because, okay, he was super high on Tyler Algier the year before, and I was lower on him because a lot of the combine stuff, and he didn't test extremely well. Tackle breaking translates, people. Bucky's tackle breaking stuff in college was fantastic. So we can make the same talk about Kyren and about Tyler Algier as well.
All right, let's get to the least likely player to ever draft again. I will throw this out too. Honorable mention, maybe, for waiver wire pickup of the year, Jayden Daniels too, because I'm sure in a lot of single quarterback leagues, he was not drafted. And he ended up as a top 5 quarterback. And I'm sure won some people some leagues because, a lot of people who drafted Mahomes were not too happy. A lot of people who drafted some quarterbacks did not get the return on their investment in those single quarterback leagues. And I bet Jayden Daniels showed up in a lot more of those single QB championship teams than people realize. But let's get to the guy that we're not touching again. Mine's Christian Watson. He made it easy on me too, tearing his ACL here right before the playoffs. So I don't think I'm going to be faced with that drama again. But regardless, I wasn't going to do it to myself. I had already promised myself in week 16 that I was like, all right, I've learned my lesson. I'm not going to do this again. Let's start with you, Derek Brown here. Give me the player that you are not going to draft again.
It's George Pickens. He's a false alpha. I'm not drafting him. I don't even know on a weekly basis if he even finishes the game, considering him and DK Metcalf have apparently the same affliction. Every cornerback that presses them in line or talks smack to them, they want to fight in game. So you never can tell what's going to happen with George Pickens. And all of our hope for, okay, he's the number one and he's the guy that's going to get all this target share and all that kind of stuff, it didn't do anything for us. Wide receiver 35 in fantasy points per game. And on a week per week basis, if you had George Pickens, you felt like this was 2023 all over again because he had 6 games in weekly scoring as a wide receiver 2 or better. Well, guess what? He outnumbered that with 8 weeks outside the top 40 wide receivers in weekly scoring. So you were like, oh, I feel good about starting him. Oh, wait, he sucks again. And it was terrible if you had George Pickens in 2024.
Well, I'm going to draft in all those leagues we're in together. I'm going to have all the Pickens then because that's going to be a good time. I'll go back to this. Well,
I will offer him up to you, Joe.
Erickson, let's hit up your least likely player to draft in 2025. Who is it?
Deebo Samuel.
Ooh,
any pushback, guys?
Nope.
I mean, he had less than 22 receiving yards in, I think, 5 of his last 6 games. And Brandon Ayuk didn't play like the entire season. And Deebo Samuel was a bust. And all they've done is draft guys. I mean, he might not even be on the 49ers next year. So do I really trust a Deebo Samuel playing on a brand new team where, I mean, he's shown such a decrease in production. The rushing is not there for him. The receiving efficiency is not there for him. He's always hurt. I see no reason to draft Deebo, who was outside the top 40 receivers in both points per game and overall scoring in 2024. So, I mean, the 49ers tried to trade him. Like they knew like, hey, we want to get rid of this guy. We have Juwan Jennings. We have Ricky Pearsall. We want to sign Brandon Ayuk long-term. So yeah, I mean, with those 3 guys all coming back next year, we'll see when Ayuk gets back from his ACL injury, but I see no reason to think that Deebo's going to be 49er. And I don't think I'm going to want to buy the discounted price of him wherever he ends up. And fingers crossed, it's not my New England Patriots. So.
Well, if he ends up somewhere else, it's not going to be a discount. That's the worst part. Everyone's going to buy into a fresh, future paint a coat, as my friend likes to say down in West Virginia.
With Pickens.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to Javonte Williams here, Fitzy. That's your guy. So I guess burned one too many times by the Denver backfield.
Oh, yeah. I drafted Javonte often this year. And, I thought 2024 was going to be his year, Joe. Like I was going to give him a mulligan for kind of a lackluster 2023. He was less than a year removed from his torn ACL and LCL. So, he was going to be the lead back in a Sean Payton offense. And Sean Payton's running backs have historically provided pretty immense value as pass catchers. I mean, he did have a career high 52 receptions this year, but for only 346 receiving yards and no touchdowns. Javonte didn't have a 100-yard rushing game all year. His season high was 88 yards against a really bad Saints defense. Also scored 2 touchdowns in that game, but he only had 2 other touchdowns the entire season. And in all other games besides that game against the Saints, Javonte averaged 6.7 half-point PPR fantasy points per game, wound up in the messy backfield rotation with Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime. I mean, Javonte's still only 24. I don't think we can write him off as a potential impact player down the road. I don't think I can ride the Javonte carousel again.
All right. Before we get to the MVP on everyone's list here for 2024, just a quick reminder too, now's the time to download the Betting Pros app, sync your sports books for free, and you get the free trial 30 days of the greatest betting tools ever invented by our incredible team here at Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros. Check it out right now. 30 days for free when you use the promo code FP free. That's it. FP free. That will unlock 30 days of the premium tools on Betting Pros, which already have such incredible tools just for the free version, but the premium ones even better. So check them out today. And it's a great time too with the next couple days. You got Thursday, Friday, college playoffs. You've got NFL playoffs Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Matt Peralta and I were talking about it. Pace yourselves, boys and girls. Pace yourselves. It's going to be a long weekend of incredible football action. So download Betting Pros app and get going. FP free. Here we go, boys. It's time for the fantasy MVP of 2024. Derek Brown, who is your MVP?
Erickson, you ready, baby? We got to stretch them hamstrings, sir. Don't want to pull any muscles. Can't have it. Our wide receiver 1 of the year, baby. Ja'Marr Chase. Triple
Ja'Marr
crown
Chase.
winner, baby. And this all comes down to, and I'll just give you one stat, boys. The only player in fantasy, quarterbacks and everybody, to average more fantasy points per game than Ja'Marr Chase this season was Lamar Jackson. That's it. Ja'Marr Chase.
Good argument.
MVP.
That's a very good argument.
Is that full PPR?
That's full PPR, baby.
Okay.
Oh, well, Andrew, checking your scoring there.
Wow.
Looking at that. Look, the Bengals should have paid Ja'Marr Chase.
They're going to pay now.
Really have to pay him now. So, but he has had a lot of incomplete seasons with some injuries and some issues there. So, I mean, that's the thing. It's like you have these big contract years and then you get paid, and then everyone goes, "All right, well, you're going to repeat it." So that'll be fascinating to see. Probably 1 or 2 on most people boards heading into next year. Andrew Erickson, who is your fantasy MVP of 2024?
Mine is Saquon Barkley, because he was the only skill player to average over 20 points per game in half PPR, which Fantasy Pros, our ECR rankings are in half PPR scoring. So I'm a man of the people, a man of the half PPR setting. So I'm going to give it to Saquon Barkley. Rushed for over 2,000 yards this season, was actually cheaper in drafts than Ja'Marr Chase was. So he was easier to draft. I mean, Saquon Barkley, I don't think you can look back at this. I mean, he's going to win Offensive Player of the Year, because as much as it pains me to look at all my Ja'Marr Chase Offensive Player of the Year awards
to
think he won the Triple Crown and that he's not going to win the award just absolutely kills me inside. But deservedly so. It's going to go to, unless something really bonkers happens, it's probably going to go to Saquon, rush for 2,000 yards. And yeah, I mean, from a consistency standpoint, I think there was no one that was more consistent from him on a week-to-week basis. And the thing of the matter is, he did it without even this like absurd receiving role. The tush push still stayed there. Everything we like, all the concerns we had about Saquon were just a non-factor because of how efficient he was behind the Eagles offensive line. Like, we knew that was going to happen, but to what extent we weren't sure. And to the extent it was, it's going to result in a 2,000-yard rushing season for Saquon Barkley. So yes, this was the year to draft him, and I'm going to admit it now. I'm not going to draft him a lot next year. Like, he has all the red flags of this was the year to draft him. 2025 is not the year to draft Saquon Barkley. So
let's put that on tape, everybody. Let's put that on tape.
Give Barkley his flowers now, but definitely going to be probably fading him.
Snip this for next year, for the end of the year, Callie. All right, let's get to Pat Fitzmaurice. Now, Andrew Erickson claims he's a man of the people, but the people play a lot of PPR leagues, and there's a running back actually that had more fantasy points in PPR leagues than Saquon Barkley, believe it or not. Pat Fitzmaurice, who's your fantasy MVP of 24?
It is Jahmyr Gibbs. And Ja'Marr Chase and Saquon Barkley scored more half-point PPR fantasy points than Jahmyr Gibbs this season. Chase and Barkley did not score more fantasy points than Jahmyr Gibbs in the weeks when it mattered most in the fantasy playoffs. So in weeks 15, 16, and 17, Jahmyr Gibbs scored 25.9 half-point PPR points, 23.4 points, and 24.3 points. He scored 73.6 fantasy points in the 3 playoff weeks. Ja'Marr Chase scored 48 points in those 3 weeks, 25.6 fewer than Gibbs. Saquon Barkley scored 53.3 points in those 3 weeks and only had 8.4 points in week 15. So he kind of let you down if you were in a wild card game. Gibbs he put playoff teams on his back, Joe. Like, I had Gibbs in one redraft league, and that team got in as a wild card team. I won the championship in that league in no small part because of Gibbs' heroics. And it's not like Gibbs was a slacker in the regular season. He averaged 16.9 half-point PPR fantasy points a game through week 14, tying him with Bijan Robinson for RB4 in that category. And Gibbs was consistent. There was only one game all year in which he failed to score double-digit points, and he just barely missed in that week with 9.4 points. So no denying how great and impactful Chase and Barkley were this season, but when it mattered most and championships were on the line, Jahmyr Gibbs went into the phone booth, put on his Superman cape, and bent freaking steel with his bare hands.
Sure did. I remember having arguments with you over Jonathan Taylor and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm a big Gibbs guy, and I think we underdrafted Gibbs, and I was so pleased, even with that split backfield most of the season, to see him at the very top of that list is stunning when you consider how much he's seeded in terms of work to David Montgomery throughout the season. And maybe that's part of the success too, right? You stay healthy. You don't have the same kind of volume. But Fitzy making a great case there for Jahmyr Gibbs. Love to hear it. Those are the winners of our 2024 awards. Now, we want to hear from you. Drop your comments below here if you're watching live or you're watching back. Who are your MVPs, your biggest busts, all your waiver wire pickup of the year? We want your individual awards, so drop your comments. I expect all of them in there. And, of course, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
oh dear,
we have something very fun planned here today
Oh, dear.
because, you see, we say a lot of things here at Fantasy
dear.
Pros. We get paid to talk, and we talk a lot. And sometimes
Oh, dear.
we're really right about things, and sometimes not so much.
Oh,
So,
no.
with the help of our incredible team here, who've been putting in the overtime, I had a crazy idea. Wouldn't it be fun to hit all the guys with some of their bold predictions from earlier in the 2024 season, for better or worse, so we can be accountable? And my accountability buddies today, Pat Fitzmaurice, Andrew Erickson, Derek Brown, are all here to help us be accountable, because we need to be accountable, for better, for worse. Process is a great thing. Sometimes the process was good, the results weren't the same. Sometimes everything was bad, and sometimes everything was pretty darn good too. So the guys have no idea what I'm going to show them next, and we're going to go one by one. It's not quite a roast, but it's certainly going to be an entertaining time looking back on the things that we said in 2024, what came true, what didn't. Let's start with clip number 1 and Derek Brown. Seth, roll it.
Oh, well, we've all, speaking of guys we've loved the entire offseason, I have not shut up about this guy since freaking January. So you're giving me an avenue where I can give a bold prediction about somebody. It's Jaleel McLaughlin, baby. He's going to be an RB2 in fantasy this year.
Now, I'm looking in the RB2s for Jaleel McLaughlin, and I don't see him there. Now, I understand the process, and part of the process, like Pat, like Javonte Williams, people wanted in on Sean Payton running backs, and I get that. Yep. But unfortunately, it did not come true. Deebo, any final thoughts on the season for Jaleel McLaughlin? What might have been?
Oh man, yeah, it sucked. I was big into Jaleel the entire year.
He's trending up though.
I mean,
late season.
He did, man. I mean, it was like the beginning of the year. It was okay. Bo Nix was playing terribly. The offensive line is not good, and then it became a 3-way committee, and you were like, okay, well, we can't play any of them. So part of this was I'll stand by the process of it, but also, yes, it failed, and I apologize to all the fantasy managers that have drafted Jaleel.
All right. Well, look, not everything you said was bad. Something
you
said
that's good to know.
Look, this is going to be a nice cross-section of good and bad, but most importantly, fun.
I knew Jaleel was going to be on the list. I knew it.
Michael Callie and I worked very closely going through hours and hours of tape to find some fun things. Now, there's one guy that you were in on more than anybody else, and you convinced me. I didn't need too much convincing, but you convinced me anyway, and we fought over this guy in a lot of drafts.
Oh,
let's hear your take about Brian Robinson Jr.
Oh, Brian Robinson Jr. will be this year's Alfred Morris. He will be an RB1 in fantasy. And I know everybody's so concerned about the offensive line. Everybody's so concerned about this offense in general. I'm not.
Now, look, he certainly had a chance at it. He did miss 3 games. So that was a problem there. He ended up finishing, I'm looking right now in the PPR. Actually, well, for him, I think it's more fair to gauge him in the half PPR settings. But certainly a very good season, very productive season, a solid RB 29 overall there. And for his draft stock, very cheap. And certainly, you know, seemed to be a guy that was scoring touchdowns at a good clip. So unfortunately, he didn't finish as an RB1. But certainly, I think a successful year for Brian Robinson Jr. that I think bodes well for him in the future, because Austin Eckler, another year older, another year injured. It seems like, you know, either they're going to replace that role or it's going to just be more Brian Robinson in 2025.
Yeah, I agree, Joey. I mean, this all comes down to he started out really well, and then he just couldn't stay healthy. It was one nagging injury after another, and he came back, wasn't getting the snap roll and stuff. I mean, if he would have stayed healthy the entire season, I think we would have seen it. If not RB1, he would have been top 15.
All right. Don't get too comfortable, Fitz, because we're coming for you next. This is the Deebo segment of the show here. Let's go to another Deebo clip from last summer, talking about a quarterback.
All right, so I'm going to tie a few different things together here, because in their own little buckets, people might say this is not a hot take, but Caleb Williams is going to set Chicago Bears single season record in passing yards, passing touchdowns, and completions?
No.
Did he not? He didn't break the Jay Cutler records.
Did he? I gotta see.
I thought he was close.
It might be
I was
close.
gonna say those are pretty low bars. He might have broke
That's what I
some
mean.
of those.
Yeah, that's what I
I
mean.
gotta
Like,
look. I gotta look. Oh my
that was
gosh.
pretty low. I don't know, but he didn't come anywhere near 4,000
Wait,
passing
oh,
Did he
yards.
beat Bobby Douglas? And
He was okay. He finished fifth amongst the Bears top 5. So 5th in passing yards in the season.
But he's not in the Mount Rushmore
Well,
yet.
here's the fun part is Eric Kramer actually 38-38 was the highest number back in 95. Eric Kramer,
Caleb.
there's a name. But was Caleb
Caleb.
a complete bust for you this year, or just kind of a meh rookie season here where he just kind of took his lumps with all the situation between the Bears offensive coordinator getting fired, the head coach getting fired, everything just being a disaster around him?
I mean, it's funny because there's a definite dichotomy. I was lower than consensus on Caleb as a prospect throughout the entire NFL draft season. I got flamed for having him as my QB3 of the draft class. But the closer we got to the season, I was like, look, he's got a lot of weapons. This offense is going to pass a ton. And he just had a monumental face plant. I mean, he was about as bad as you could expect for a rookie quarterback, and woof. So
He was, but
yeah.
to the point, I think it was Fitz or Erickson was making, or both of them. It wasn't a huge bar. You were just saying he was going to be the best of the Bears quarterbacks,
and he still wasn't, though. I mean, just keeping it honest. He still wasn't.
No Eric Kramer, that's for sure. One more, and this was a guy that I like too, and I'm not drafting anymore in 2025. Seth Dywald. Roll the clip on Christian Watson.
Yeah, we're talking about Nico Collins and how special his 2023 season it was last year. Well, I'm going to give you the 2024 version of Nico Collins right now. And that is Christian Watson. 2024 Christian Watson will be 2023 Nico Collins. And I know everybody is crafting their hamstring jokes right now as you're listening to me. Save them, because Christian Watson is going to bury and put all of those in a coffin with his performance this year.
Well, you were right about one thing. Buried in a coffin is right. Buried in a coffin is absolutely correct. He buried so many of my teams in a coffin. Oh, he came in a good value, so it was worth the risk. Just very frustrating.
I got to return the coffin. Is there a pawn shop around that will take it? Please.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Somebody.
All right. Let's put Derek Brown out of his misery. Again, a lot of great work from
Put Derek Brown in the coffin.
I think you heard it.
But look, again, process good. You saw the big playability. You saw it with Rodgers. Then you saw it in glimpses with Jordan Love. It was like, can he just stay healthy? The answer is no. No, he can't, and not consistent enough. So here you go. It's important to learn from our mistakes here. Let's move on to Andrew Erickson. Andrew Erickson, I hope that cardigan you're wearing is warm, because some of these picks are ice cold. But not this first one. This first one, aged like fine wine. Roll the clip.
Brian Thomas Jr. leads all rookie wide receivers in receiving yards. So that's my Tabasco
Let's go.
hot take.
Tabasco.
Yeah, Tabasco on fire.
Spicy meet the ball. Good job, Erickson.
Andrew Erickson. And I don't think there was another football analyst out there in the fantasy space that was talking about Brian Robinson, Brian Thomas Jr. like you were. And kudos to you, credit to you. You nailed it, and it came true. How does it feel to look back at that? The confidence, it's amazing the confidence in which Derek Brown delivers some of his takes, but the confidence of you delivering this take right here and then it being right and spot on, that's got to feel pretty good. Did you cash in everywhere on that too?
Yes. Yeah, I did. I got 18-1 odds on FanDuel. So it was, I think the thing that I'm most proud about it is I thought it was just really good process. Like, it wasn't just like, throwing a bet at a wall, just trying to take a bold prediction. I looked at the Jaguars receiving situation. Calvin Ridley was gone from that offense. Zay Jones was gone from that offense. It was an underrated landing spot because I looked at, there are so many vacated targets in this offense. And I looked at Calvin Ridley's role in 2023, how great that was in terms of his expected production, but really wasn't the talent, or at least he wasn't the talent in Jacksonville that I thought Brian Thomas could be in the NFL. And it also goes back to, we see these teammates on the same college team just get undervalued. The reason Brian Thomas didn't put up better numbers at LSU is because of Malik Neighbors, not because he's not good. So
I mean, I'll be honest, like Brian Thomas Jr., the talent bailed me out because when Trevor Lawrence got hurt, that's when I got the most concerned. That was not into my process. If you had told me Mac Jones was going to be his quarterback all year long, would not have made that bet on Brian Thomas Jr. But give credit to the player being uber talented as a first round pick. And yeah, Brian Thomas Jr., definitely one of my biggest hits. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the misses are that you have queued up.
Oh, I was going to say, not every
don't get
take of yours
comfy.
was red hot. So I hope you're taking a seat after that victory lap. Let's see Andrew's take about the Carolina Panthers.
The Carolina Panthers. Yes, the team that had the number one overall pick that they didn't get to pick because they traded it away. They're going to make the playoffs this year. In 2024. Carolina Panthers.
Whoa.
So here's how it's going to go. Here's how it's going to go.
Here's how it's going to go. It did not go. It did not go. It did not happen. Now, I will say this. The second half of the year, Panthers were plucky. They were exciting. They covered a lot of games. They took some good teams to their limits. Andrew Erickson, ironically, somewhere around week 10, swore off the Panthers on the betting shows that we did together. And that's when they started to get really good. They started to turn things around.
Until they were favored against Dallas. And then
it all came crashing down. It all came crashing down. All right. Let's run through another one of Andrew Erickson's takes. A lot of Jacksonville stuff for Andrew Erickson in 2024.
My first hot take is Trevor Lawrence, quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, leads the NFL in passing yards.
He did not lead the league in passing yards. Spoiler alert. He probably wasn't going to regardless. Here's the big question, though. I think it's too early to call Trevor Lawrence a bust. We are going to get another quarterback. This will be his third quarterback, another offensive coordinator, another system. Is Trevor Lawrence just kind of snake bit here, Andrew Erickson, for the rest of his career? Does he need to get out of Jacksonville to recoup his fantasy value, or can he reach the heights of that number one overall pick that we had so much generational talent conversation about?
Well, I mean, he's got Brian Thomas Jr. So that's working, working positively in his outlook. Look, I think that, again, I'm not sure how it's going to shake out with Jacksonville. Trent Baalke's there. That's obviously a reason why head coaches may not want to go to Trent Baalke. But if anything, it's like, hey, maybe you'll have a longer leash here, depending on what your production is. So, I mean, if Ben Johnson goes to Jacksonville, then I'm going to be back in on Trevor Lawrence and this Jaguars offense. So, Trevor Lawrence, it's tough, but you have to look at the system. Like, he just never seemed to have had that perfect marriage between offensive coordinator, play caller, head coach, and him. Like, that really hasn't worked out, and it didn't work out with Doug Peterson. Obviously, it didn't work out with Urban Meyer. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, he still has, I think, the tools. He runs a little bit, so I don't think that he's totally useless in fantasy. And if Brian Thomas Jr. turns into a top 5 NFL wide receiver, which he looks like he's on his way, then, yeah, you're going to have to at least be interested in the quarterback.
All right. Pat Fitzmaurice has been waiting quietly and patiently as if I would not call on him, but I am. We got plenty of clips on YouTube, Pat Fitzmaurice. Let's start with one regarding a guy that you and I certainly went at it over, Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor rushes for 2,000 yards and finishes as the RB1 in fantasy.
He did not rush for 2,000 yards. Saquon Barkley did. In fact, Derrick Henry almost did. But Jonathan Taylor, 1,431, a respectable season. You were a little off there. Was it the season you were really hoping for from Jonathan Taylor?
No. Well, Joe, he was trying to play catch up at the end there. If the regular season had gone 20 weeks, I think we would have gotten there. So no, it didn't. I really
4 more weeks of the season. What do we want?
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of thinking about how mobile quarterbacks sort of spike the rushing efficiency of their running backs frequently. How the Alfred Morris season with RG3 back in the day. Thought we might see something similar with Shane Steichen, Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis. Didn't really see it. Didn't work out. Like, I'm starting to worry that Taylor's ankle issues might be chronic. But when he was healthy at the end of the season, I mean, you probably didn't make the fantasy playoffs if you had Jonathan Taylor on your team. But if you did somehow get in there, he was great for you down the stretch.
Great at the end. Maybe if you traded for him late. So Caleb Williams, rookie quarterback that Deebo had some takes on. Fitzy had a take on a rookie quarterback too. Let's see it.
Michael Penix is the Falcons starting quarterback by the end of October. Kirk Cousins has become this sacred cow in the fantasy football world because he's put up consistently respectable numbers. I would contend that Cousins is a much better fantasy quarterback than real life quarterback. So in other words, I think Kirk Cousins is kind of overrated.
All right. Well, you had the right thing, the wrong date. Wasn't until into December where we got that move. But Fitzy,
that's a Raheem Morris problem. That's not
he was
problem.
spiritually correct.
He was spiritually correct, but Fitzy, they were kind of up against it, right? Because they were kind of close and in it. They had the bye, and then the week after they came back, then they had Minnesota. And there was no way they weren't going to let Cousins play that game, right? So really, the schedule kind of caught the Falcons. So Michael Penix, did you see enough at the end to get excited about him next year in the Falcons offense?
Yes, indeed. That guy can spin it, man. That guy
has
man.
See, thank you. I was saying that all last year, and everyone told me, why are you so high on Penix? I'm like, because that guy just has reckless abandon, throws the football with all kinds of confidence, and he made Drake London look pretty good at the end.
Yeah, the other thing, Joe, the secret sauce with Penix, he does not take sacks. Like he was barely sacked in college. And obviously that was a big issue with Caleb Williams in Chicago. Like Penix is great at sack avoidance, and man, does that guy have arm talent.
All right. I don't know if you're going to like the next couple here. We made you look good at the beginning, set you up. Let's go to clip number 3 about a Texans wide receiver.
Nico Collins scores fewer fantasy points than both Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell.
Ooh, not the freshest of looks there. Why did you think that at the end of the day that it was not Nico Collins as the wide receiver one, that it was potentially Diggs as the new guy or even Tank Dell?
I was hoping you were going to continue to roll more of the clip so I could find out what my convoluted logic was in that. Like I can't even remember.
I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe a couple one too many tequilas before the show. I don't know. You're just feeling fast and loose with the Texans takes.
I mean, I kind of thought that Stephon Diggs, with his personality, would just not consent to being a second or third wheel in that offense. And I like Tank Dell, like everyone else on the staff did. So, yeah, let's erase that one from the memory bank.
All right. That one was pretty rough. So we're gonna cut the last one of yours too, because that guy got hurt. So I don't want to talk about it. But I am not above accountability either. I say a lot of things. So let's roll number 1 from our bowl predictions.
Make it good, Callie.
Let's see how it is, Callie.
Make it good.
Just like Andrew Erickson, who just turned 30, a lot of people are telling him that, it's all downhill from there. It can't be anymore. Everything is going to be terrible. And I'm hearing the same thing about Derrick Henry. And I, for one, am sick and tired of hearing it. And Derrick Henry, I think, is ready to prove something. I think Derrick Henry's got a lot in the tank, and I think Derrick Henry is going to lead the league in rushing so much so this year that I am willing to wager it, and you can track me over on Betting Pros when I put my wagers in, because it's going to be there for him to lead the league in rushing this year.
He was close.
So close. Oh,
Saquon just screwed us all over.
He really did.
We all had that over rushing touchdowns at plus money on Betting Pros, though.
Let me tell you something. I will say this too. I had the number that was set was 925.5 for him. I think he hit that in like week 9 or something crazy like that. And I've never bet a number so fast in my life as when that 925.5 came out. I said, well, are you kidding me? That's the number you're putting out for Derrick Henry and the Ravens. All right. So that wasn't too bad. It wasn't super embarrassing. All right, let's see number 2.
Come on, Callie, bring the sauce.
I'm gonna go with my first take that Jayden Daniels outscores Caleb Williams in fantasy points this year. That's right, I said it. There you go. Looks like Jayden Daniels over Caleb Williams, and that might seem like not so hot now, but at the time, Caleb Williams was by far the favorite for Rookie of the Year. Jayden Daniels wasn't even number 2. It was Marvin Harrison Jr. on the board. So in terms of impact rookies, people really did. Maybe if I had said Bo Nix, it would have been a hotter take probably, but I wasn't thinking that was possible. But all right, Jayden Daniels, that's pretty good. All right, there's got to be something bad here. Let's go through another clip here. What do you got, Callie? Alvin Kamara is getting disrespected. Okay. He missed 4 games last year. Okay. You go back and you look at what he did last year, 3.9 yards per carry. The year before, 4 yards per carry. The touchdowns really weren't there for him last year, but we could say that about the Saints in general now, can't we? In PPR leagues, Alvin Kamara is going to be an RB1. That's right. I said it.
I'm waiting for the bad clip. What are we getting at?
What is it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe my takes are just better than yours.
Wait. Rigged.
I don't know. It kind of feels like some of these takes are pretty good.
Callie, Harrison Jr.
Come on.
I don't know.
What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
I just want to say for the record, Alvin Kamara finished as RB9. And that was with missing some time. So missing some time. All right. Surely there's a bad prediction here somewhere. Let's go to the next.
I doubt it at this point.
All right. And then there were one more take for you. And I think this one the boys are going to like a lot because I've been laying in the weeds and, I've been yelling at them about quarterback play and I yelled at them about Darren Waller. And then I yelled at everybody about this other tight end too. I said, look, you can't be good unless you have somebody good throwing you the football. And now he does. Kyle Pitts, tight end 1 this year. That's right. Not Travis Kelce, not Sam Laporta. It's Kyle Pitts. Boo, so bad.
Time.
He didn't even finish as a
About
tight
time.
end 1. Forget tight end 1 overall. He didn't even finish as a tight end 1, right? He was way past there.
Tight end
Oh,
1
he's
is
tight
team.
end 15. Tight end 15. You know what? I should have listened to myself there. I really screwed the pooch because you're right. Joe from the past, he didn't have good quarterback play again this year, and you should have realized that. But maybe if Fitz's dream had come true and we were talking, what did you say? October 1st there, Fitzy? Is that the date you said?
Joe, even Michael Penix Jr. couldn't resuscitate. Okay, sorry.
All right.
He tried.
So, officially, though, thank goodness we didn't do this the year you guys were all on Darren Waller. Let me tell you, oh my God, that would have been the best. We could just call it the Darren Waller experience. But yeah, this was it was just my turn this year to take the L on Kyle Pitts. So I'm gonna own it. It sucks. He's got all the size, all the speed, all the tools. He just
He's going to be great in 2029 on the camera.
oh God. Great.
I was
All
just
right.
to say I was waiting for 2025. Don't do it to us, Aaron.
2029.
So all right, finally something embarrassing for me. All right, there's one more here. Let's play this last clip and we'll get out of here. Lad McConkey is going to have 100 receptions in his rookie season. That's right, I said it. Didn't quite get there. 82.
It wouldn't surprise me if he did, though. So
I mean,
Did you have to look and say, did he have 100?
I had to
he missed
look. I
some
was like,
games. He
I thought
missed
had
a couple games,
yeah.
I think. So, I mean,
He did. I think he missed 2 or something like that. Pat Fitzmaurice, I was like Mr. Lad McConkey going into the year. I was very impressed with how he showed out. The numbers bear it out. Are we having big expectations for him in year 2?
Oh, definitely. Like I didn't know if he could be an alpha receiver. That was my question about him. I thought he might be kind of a complimentary guy. He is a wide receiver 1, no question.
All right.
Where are all of our Quentin Johnston takes?
They're buried somewhere deep. Well,
I thought we were going to get like a J.K. Dobbins take from Erickson on air.
Well, I just going to put this out there, boys. Now that this is going to be a thing,
Bring
just
it.
be careful with your takes in August.
Yeah, bring it. Here for it.
But there was a lot of good there. There's a lot of good process, some not so good, but accountability at the end of the year. That's what it's all about. I think the big winner in terms of best prediction has to go to Erickson. Does everyone want to agree and give him that award? BTJ, I think, was, so you're the big winner. So congratulations, Andrew Erickson, the best of the fun predictions that actually came true there. I was close on Derrick Henry. He's too old. No, he's not. Andrew Erickson's not too old either.
If you had said he's going to rush for 1,900 yards and not lead the NFL in rushing, I'd be like, well, you're nuts.
Yeah, you would.
Does my Jaleel take get the worst? Do I get the toilet bowl trophy?
Would you have said it was nuts if Saquon Barkley was the guy I said was going to have more than 2,000 yards? With all of his injuries, I would have thought maybe you would think that's
well. Here's the other thing with Saquon,
Maybe.
right? What if I told you, okay, among Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Dallas Goedert, Saquon misses the least amount of games?
Yeah,
That literally happened.
Yeah, I know. That is crazy stuff. All right, so thanks everybody, and of course, good sports here. Pat Fitzmaurice, Deebo, Derek Brown, and Andrew Erickson, 3 of the best analysts in the business. But even the best sometimes give us some good entertainment value, and we can't be right all the time, except me about takes regarding running backs. Apparently, I'm red hot. Gotta stay on that. But yeah, seriously, no. But look, we all say some things we wish you could take back, but that's the fun of this show. We have a moment to look back in retrospect and focus on 2025 and be better. Make sure you're better with us and make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel over here at Fantasy Pros. Ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications. And of course, comment with your favorite of the takes or some takes that you were right about or takes that you were horribly wrong about, because it happens to everybody once in a while. Even you out there, you know who you are. And we want you to be with us here for the entire 2025 season, because we've got dynasty content. We've got NFL draft content coming up. We've got out of bounds going on. We've got so many things. And of course, wild card weekend. Don't forget Saturday, 4:15 on the Betting Pros channel. Scott Bogman and myself hanging out. Tune in. Chargers, Texans. We're going to be live during the game, talking betting, in-game live betting opportunities. Be with us for all of that. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. for three of my favorite humans on the planet, Pat Fitzmaurice, Andrew Erickson, and Derek Brown. I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
Oh, that was painful.
Yes, we must experience pain in order.
Oh,
to grow.
dude, I love it.
I'm just happy no one brought up the Josh Palmer predictions for me.
No.